Zone MMA, Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy, and another epic fight going in to the fight wing of the UFC Hall of Fame. This one is a stamp in time for MMA fans. You remember where you were and where you watched it and who you were with and probably what you were eating and drinking when you watched this fight between Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald. One of the greatest fights we have ever seen in any promotion in mixed martial arts, certainly deserving of a place in the Hall of Fame. Dan Hardy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. It was just such a special fight between two of the best. Different eras, different generations. I remember Robbie Lawler making his debut in, what was he, 21, I think it was. He was just a ferocious young man. And then you got Rory MacDonald, he was a bit younger, but he was kind of, the guy following in GSP's footsteps. He was going to be something great. And it was just it was one of those fights where they gave a bit of everything that they had left. There was nothing left to give at the end of it. It was one of those fights where they'll always look back on it and feel, I would imagine, strangely close to one another for sharing that moment.
One of the fights, remember how bloody it was, right? And how nasty it was. And if you've been in the sport and you know how some of these fights go and how nasty and volume, high pace, back and forth, with so many significant strikes landed, you know kind of the toll that takes. I don't know if the average sports fan knows the toll that takes. But in this fight, it kind of gave everyone a glimpse, right? Rory's face was smashed. There's that iconic image of his, misshapen nose and forehead and the blood coming down, the Red King photo, right? And obviously the cut on Robbie Lawler's lip, it was beyond the lip. It was, all the way up to his nose almost. Teeth were hanging out. Like, that showed people that didn't know anything about mixed martial arts what is risked every time you step in. And it's a phrase that is often overused in the sport. That fight changes your life. I really think that fight changed both of them forever, right? Hopefully, from a long-term health perspective, they're fine. But I think from a mileage on your fight career and how much longer you get to keep doing it at the very highest level, I think that chipped away a little bit from who both of them could be, as a fighter for the rest of their careers. Both still went on to great things after that fight. But if they hadn't done that to one another in that fight, I think the trajectory of the careers maybe looks even a little bit different, if that's fair.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, they're both such durable individuals that they were never going to back down. They're both a little bit crazy as well. I mean, they're slightly different brands of crazy, but they're both crazy. And it's one of those fights where I try and picture it sometimes from an outside perspective, from someone that's not stepped in there and been prepared to sacrifice themselves like that. It must seem unnecessary to a lot of people, but it also
probably
must
a little
help
bit
people.
Sick.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's taking all the blood away, all the damage away. What it shows is what people are determined to put themselves through to win. And I think we saw two fighters on that night that were so determined to win that they were not going to give an inch. And I had a Thai boxing match many years ago where I broke my nose in the first round of a five rounder, and I remember the feeling to this day, getting punched on the nose when my nose was already broken. It's like this kind of sickening feeling that you get all through your front teeth and the back of your mouth and everything, and it's very, very unpleasant. So while I'm watching that, not only am I seeing the mess that they're both in, but I'm also picturing what that feels for Rory every time he's getting hit on that already badly damaged nose. Robbie Lawler, I mean, he's just a savage anyway. I think I think he would have done that for free if he'd given him the opportunity. That's just the way he's built. I think that eventually we're going to see less and less of those kind of people in the sport of mixed martial arts, because I think people are going to get better at competing. I think people are going to get smarter, and there was something reckless about that performance. But it was kind of because they've gone to the ends of each other's game plans. Like, what else have we got to give other than pints of blood?
Yeah. And that's one of the unique things about this fight. You look at the fights in the Hall of Fame wing, and a lot of times it's one Hall of Famer or future Hall of Famer versus someone who's maybe borderline, these are two like definitive Hall of Fame caliber fighters squaring off against one another, right? And they gave us an all-time classic. Where does it rank for you among all the greats? My favorites are this fight, are in no particular order. Shogun versus Henderson, the first John Jones Alexander Gustafsson fight, very way up there for me. Comes Swanson Duho Choi is up there. But I mean, no matter how you shake it out, try and order them. This fight definitively for me falls somewhere in my top 5. Where's it rank for you?
Yeah, it has to be up there as well. I mean, there are a couple of fights maybe I'd throw in. One of the ones that always stands out in my mind is Anderson Silva, Michael Bisping. Just a fantastic fight. Maybe I'm a little biased because I was optic inside for that one, but it was amazing to see Bisping, drag himself back off the canvas after getting dropped with that knee when Anderson thought the fight was over and it was the end of the round. It was, there was drama, there was ups and downs. The other one as well that will always stick out in my mind, and this is a bit of a throwback for you as well, was Korean Zombie against Leonard Garcia, the first one before it came over into WEC. I mean, that was I remember Leonard Garcia up against the fence, swinging punches with his arms completely extended out both his sides. It reminded me, the drum that they use on Karate Kid 2, when he's just like winging and he was missing. It was like the opening of Ensign Inoue against Igor Vovchanchin. Do you remember that fight? That was one of the most iconic moments for me. It wasn't the most amazing of rounds because it had this ferocious, I don't know, 15, 20 second start where Ensign was determined to die on his sword or knock him out. And they just went wild for the first few seconds. Then they ended up on the floor where Vovchanchin just beat the hell out of him for 10 minutes, because it was the round, wasn't it? It was the first round was 10 minutes. And at the end of the first round, Ensign Inoue couldn't get up to go back to his corner. They dragged him back and sat him up against the corner post, and the doctors stop it. And honestly, if you watch it back today, you can hear Ensign in his corner screaming no when they're stopping him from fighting, even though he can't even stand up. That stuck out in my mind. I mean, honestly, Ensign, you've opened a can of worms now. Ensign Inoue against Frank Shamrock. There's another one, amazing. Frank Shamrock, Bas Rutten, Pancrase. I mean, there were so many good fights back in the old days. But as far as UFC goes, this has got to be one of my top few. Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard. How do you separate those fights? Amazing.
I mean, Forrest and Stephan Bonner. Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner, like relaunched the UFC into what it has become today, right? I mean, these are
amazing.
These are great fights, but Rory MacDonald and Robbie Lawler as a fight stands up against anything you've ever seen in any sport. It is just an incredible, epic moment. Obviously, very deserving. Love to see the recognition for both of these incredible fighters. I've been fortunate enough to spend a little bit of time around each of them, and both awesome individuals. So love to see them get the love they deserve. And to me, probably because, I'm more likely to be remembered for great fights than being a great fighter. There's just something special about the fight wing for me, about recognizing the moments, like the little snapshots of two careers when they come together, and it's just a perfect mix, and we just get great, unbelievable back and forth contests. That is why I will always be a fan of mixed martial arts, because the name value doesn't always matter. Lawler and MacDonald, that had the name value, and it's rare that those big epic matchups live up to being a fight like this. But gosh, when they do, there's nothing better.